How many advertisements have you seen today? And I don't just mean the sponsored breaks in your TikTok scrolling or the law firm billboards on the side of the highway or even the Discover Forgiveness apricot ad you can encounter on Tumblr. I don't know, I didn't click on it. I'm talking about unassuming blind box openings, trendy makeup tutorials that all seem to coincidentally push the same products, your daily email from Klarna gently reminding you that an easy payment plan is available for a singular gumball if you so wish. Outside, inside, on your phone, in your mailbox, at your job, on your fucking fridge, I guess. If you had to give me an estimate, would you even know where to start? Ads have infected everything with the ferocity of measles in a vaccine-free daycare. If you're looking to see a picture of your newborn niece on Instagram, could I suggest purchasing some packets of liquid IV first? If a stranger is unresponsive on the floor in front of you and you need a CPR refresher, why not pause, take a breath, and consider picking up a Bubba water bottle? You gotta moisten up those lips before mouth-to-mouth somehow. Do you feel like the life has been choked out of your soul, or like there's a suffocating weight sitting in your chest that's flattened everything you used to love about yourself? You know what I think would really help you through this difficult time? Buying a $20 lip balm. Look, I get it. The world is overwhelming and overstimulating at the best of times. Everything is loud and expensive and unattainable. That gnawing pressure eats down to the bone eventually. Don't you wish you were anywhere else, that there was a better world out there, one you could control? An escape plan, a retreat where you're safe from the spit-soaked jowls of day-to-day life. Would you pay $50 for that? More importantly, would you spend another $50 once you squeeze the joy out of the first one? Also, are microtransactions okay? Cozy games have carved themselves a pretty lucrative niche as stress relievers. Almost every direct you'll come across for a casual life sim or business management game will describe itself as some variation of the word relaxing. Peaceful small towns, simple lives, wholesome narratives. Corners of your mind where the real world is fuzzy and doled out. This genre has been very successful as a comfort source for so many players, myself included. If tranquility is for sale, people will buy it. The question is, how much coziness can you sell before it becomes another product among the sea of thousands? Or to put it bluntly, is 90% of this hobby just being advertised to? Yeah? No? Kinda? Let's talk about it. The gaming industry as a whole has been booming for many years now, that much is common knowledge. $197 billion in 2025 profits alone is a number so mind-numbing that it means almost nothing to the average person in practice. It's like when you go to the dentist and they just start yelling numbers at the tech. Cozy games are no small part of those sales either. For a recent example, Tomodachi Life Living the Dream sold over 3.8 million copies in its first 2 weeks. Released only about a month before that, Pokemon Pokopia has sold upwards of 4 million copies. The market for this genre isn't small, and it's doing incredibly well for itself. You can find channels like Wholesome Games that are entirely dedicated to spreading the word about new bite-sized, comfy indies. Small developers are also a hallmark of the cozy scene in a way that we don't see with many other niches. If I were to ask you to name a couple cozy releases from, say, the past year, there's a good chance you'd offer at least one indie title on your list. That is a great thing. With the community itself working to get the spotlight on tiny teams, said teams get to do a lot more with very few resources. If you think about it, despite some of the biggest casual games like ACNH being developed by large companies, the word cozy itself is almost intertwined with the idea of decentralization. Itty-bitty villages, self-supporting neighborhoods, and a return to simplicity are all features that feel innately distant from consuming in general. So when a big company, say Disney for example, puts out their own version of a cozy game, they have the advantage of selling it to you with that image already in your head. Sure, you know it's Disney, but it's blending the Disney IP in with this connotation of smallness. It feels less like a product, less like a purchase, more like a treat. When you aren't thinking so much about the fact that you're making a transaction, it's easier to get you to make more of them. Another method that does this well is being advertised to through content, and a very solid percent of cozy gaming media is advertising. I don't want to go into the fact that Let's Plays are, in theory, advertising right now. I just want to look at the surface level part of all of this. Lists of cozy games to try out are a big facet of what we produce as a community, especially in the realm of short-form content. If you search cozy games into Instagram or YouTube, that's primarily what you're going to see. Quick, easily digestible advertisements for different games, whether indie or not. Of course, there are videos like these for any genre. You could find a list of top 10 deck builders, or racing games, or whatever zany shit you're into, I don't know, your life. What I think makes this brand of recommendation more interesting is the frequency and quantity that they're produced at. We make these all the time. Top 20 cozy games you need to buy this month, my favorite farming sims from this June, cozy games coming out this week. It's product after product after product, hoping you burn through each game quickly enough to buy from the next round of cozy games launched into the ether. And usually these are short enough games that you need to buy a new one quickly. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This is a strange thing to comment on though, because we go back to the issue of indies. It's great to promote these games, and it would be a detriment to the genre if that stopped. These batches of titles and Instagram shorts are often small, but it then comes down to you as a consumer to not only sort through the mass of information yourself, but to also stop yourself from over-consuming and buying games that you'll play for 20 minutes and never pick up again. Most of them will be pushed out to an audience for a couple weeks, with some gameplay content along with them from other channels, and then left to rot. There's a cycle of major advertising and then immediate abandonment to sell the next round. You don't really even have time to settle into one world before nobody's talking about it anymore. I also don't want this to come off as me blaming the creators, because in this day and age, what the fuck else are you gonna do? Social media prioritizes content that sells something, and you do have to rush to keep up with these trends. If there's no time for you to actually make a video on a given game before it's off the radar, you have to move on. Making detailed content over multiple months for a game that isn't popular anymore is just not profitable. It's another symptom of the attention economy model. It's rare nowadays for a release to stay relevant long enough that a community of dedicated watchers can form around it. I make content on new games sometimes too, and I've taken a couple sponsorships in my day. It's almost impossible to avoid doing so. But ultimately, why does any of that matter? Nobody's forcing you to buy a witchy librarian simulator or deceiving you into dropping $60 on Pokopia. That is your choice, and advertising is everywhere, as I said earlier. What sense does it make to point the finger at cozy games specifically? Well, I'd argue that the marketing language used for this genre adds a bit more intrigue. Like I said in the intro, cozy games are sold to us primarily as a source of stress relief and serenity. You'll be hard-pressed to find a farming sim that doesn't describe itself in an almost therapeutic way. You're escaping into the story or exploring a peaceful new world. They're tagged as relaxing and wholesome and meant to immerse you in a distraction from the pressure of daily life. The best thing you can do for your mental health right now, no matter how bleak everything is feeling, no matter how much you want to curl up into a ball and fucking die, the best thing that you can do for yourself is purchase a game where you can craft furniture and place it in an area or space of some sort. Anyway, it's usually not false advertising, but it does become a bit harder to think purchases through when they're being presented as something that will help you, whether intentionally or not. We're all bone fucking tired and stressed to the point of sickness these days, and it's easy to spend more when you're desperate to remedy that. It's a fact of life that marketing preys on that feeling, and it's not an evil being perpetrated by anyone involved with the game, but it is something to take into account. Are they selling you the mechanics and the play experience, or are they selling you an emotion? And more importantly, do you feel like you're buying a game or buying a remedy? What's compelling you to make the purchase? I don't think either option as a consumer has a moral weight, and even if it did, we've got much bigger fish to fry here. A more outwardly predatory version of this issue shows itself when that therapeutic messaging merges with gacha games and microtransactions, which have been slowly but surely infecting the space. Say, for example, Infinity Nikki. It hits all of those cozy, peaceful buzzwords and promises you an escape from the nasty, cruel real world, and all for the low, low price of free. Unless you'd like to get a new outfit for Nikki, of course, which is a large part of the game. Just as a little treat after your long day at the Long Day Factory. You deserve that, don't you? You're relaxing. This is your one little splurge for the day, or at least until you realize the game isn't fun unless you're spending money. By then, you're already this deep into it, so why abandon it now? It's stress relief, it's self-care, it's therapy, it's gambling for people with whimsy. What if we overspend very cutely and preciously for our mental health? Hi, I'm Guy from Game Studio, and today, we're launching Polymarket for trinket maxing girlies. Infinity Nikki is far from the only culprit, obviously. Heartopia is a more recent example, which leans heavily on premium currency microtransactions. The stylistic choices and gameplay feel drive the point home that they want you to register this game as an ACNH-esque experience rather than the pay-to-win it is. Gacha games are a lot easier to sell when you aren't associating them with the cheap mobile form they tend to come in. Heartopia has its fair share of other missteps anyway. Thankfully, there's been some notable pushback and vitriol towards cozy gacha, and only time will tell if it's been enough to sink them. Anyway, whether through the constant prompting to bet the house on the pony's wholesome style or the cutesy QVC content mill that's popped up, cozy gamers get advertised to a fuck ton. There are times where the act of participating in the community itself can feel locked behind a paywall. Staying current and purchasing new games have become the centerpieces rather than genuinely enjoying the cozy play experience. That problem obviously isn't unique to cozy games, but it blends in a little better thanks to the nature of the genre. It isn't evil or reprehensible to fall into a gacha trap. You will not shake hands with Dante in hell for letting 40 mildly interesting Stardew knockoffs sit unplayed in your Steam library, okay? Don't worry. But I do want to ask you, or rather have you ask yourself, are you having fun? If the answer is yes, yay, yippee, woohoo! If the answer is anything less than that, it might be worth interrogating your spending habits a little further. For me, at least right now, my cozy choices have become a question of mindfulness. Why exactly am I purchasing this game? What seems interesting about it? Is this unique, or am I trying to fill the space of another cozy game I've played already? Did I see it in a video, or do I actually want it? Ultimately, only you can decide what your limits are, but being conscious of the content and marketing strategies you're exposed to is never a bad thing. Give yourself enough time to truly savor what you do end up picking out. Above all, coziness is meant to be enjoyed. You don't have to rush to buy whatever TikTok tells you to. If you change your mind, it'll be there later, as will 400 more games exactly like it. Don't feel guilty, but don't feel left out either. Thank you so much for listening to my crazy bitch rant. That is all I have for you today. A huge thank you to all of my members for your constant support. You guys are the best. I appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Stay safe, stay wonderful, and goodbye.